Okay, so are you ready to unlock a whole new level of whiskey appreciation?
I'm so ready.
We're diving into the world of cask finishing, and
Yeah.
trust me, this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
It's like taking an already amazing whiskey
Hmm.
and giving it a secret handshake,
Okay.
a little something extra to elevate it to something truly special.
I like that analogy. We're
Yeah.
talking about adding layers of complexity,
It's such a
nuanced,
premiere.
really refining the existing flavors of a whiskey that's already spent
Yeah.
years,
Mm.
sometimes decades,
Right.
developing its character.
See, most people know whiskey ages in barrels.
Right.
But this cask finishing thing,
Yeah.
it's like the whiskey gets to go on a whole other adventure after that initial maturation.
It really does.
It's like sending it off to boarding school to polish its accent.
And just like boarding school, the type of cask it studies in
Yeah.
dramatically shapes the final result.
Yeah.
You mentioned nitty-gritty earlier, and your source material dives right into that.
Yeah.
It's not just what kind of cask,
Right.
but how long the whiskey spends mingling with that wood.
Yeah, that totally caught my eye too.
It's a big one.
Is it a quick visit or are we talking a years-long exchange program?
Right.
Does it work like steeping tea?
Okay,
A little is nice, too much is bitter?
you're spot on with the tea analogy.
Oh, really?
Smaller casks mean faster flavor infusion, just like a concentrated tea bag.
Okay.
A finishing period might only be a few months in that case.
Interesting.
But larger casks,
Yeah.
we can be talking years
Mm-hmm.
for those flavors to fully integrate. It's a delicate dance of time and taste.
This is already blowing my mind, and we haven't even gotten to specific cask types yet.
Well, we're just getting started.
Speaking of which, the source material calls out sherry casks as a classic choice.
Yeah.
And honestly, those warm, inviting flavors sound right up my alley.
As they should.
It's like the promise of holiday baking in every sip.
Sherry casks are a fan favorite for a reason. They really do impart those beautiful, rich, sweet notes you're picking up on.
Mm-hmm.
Dried fruits like raisins and figs.
Yeah.
Warm spices like cinnamon and clove. You might even get a hint of dark chocolate or toasted nuts in the mix.
It's making me want to curl up by a fireplace.
Yeah.
And speaking of those rich, sherry-forward flavors,
Right.
I noticed our notes mentioned Macallan.
Oh, yeah.
They seem to be the rock stars of sherry cask maturation.
They've definitely earned that title. McGowan really leans into those full-bodied,
Right.
luxurious flavors that sherry casks are known for. But here's where it gets even more interesting.
Okay.
There are actually different types of sherry casks,
Oh, right.
each with its own unique personality.
Like Oloroso and Pedro Ximenez.
Exactly.
I always see those on labels, but I'll admit I'm a little fuzzy on the difference.
Okay.
They're both sherry, so what's the big deal?
It's a common question,
Yeah.
and a fair one. Think of them as siblings from the same family. They share some DNA,
Right.
but have distinct personalities.
Okay.
Oloroso sherry tends to be drier,
Okay.
so you'll get more of those nutty, spicy dried fruit notes we talked about.
Right.
But PX, sherry,
Yeah.
no, that's the sibling with a series sweet tooth.
Okay, so PX is where that decadent,
Yes.
almost syrupy sweetness comes into play.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Your source material mentions a specific tasting note for a PX finished whiskey.
Uh-huh.
Did you catch that Black Forest cake description?
Oh, yeah.
That's the kind of luscious, decadent profile we're talking about.
I knew that note sounded familiar.
Okay,
80 PX Sherry Cask finish officially on my must-try list.
I like it.
But what about other cask finishes?
Oh, yeah.
There's a whole world beyond sherry.
Well, you'd think so.
Absolutely. It really is like opening a whole flavor library.
It really is.
So where do we go next on this tasting adventure?
Okay.
What about port casks?
Okay.
Those popped up in the source material,
Right.
and I have to admit, I'm a sucker for anything that promises a hint of berry goodness.
Oh, yeah. Port casks are an excellent choice for exploring those fruit-forward flavors.
Really?
We're talking about those rich, dark berries,
Okay.
like plums and blackberries,
Uh-huh.
sometimes with a touch of cherry or even fig.
Nice.
And because port itself often has those lovely caramelized notes,
yeah.
you might find those nuances in a port-finished whiskey as well.
Okay, now this is where my limited whiskey knowledge fails me.
Okay.
Is there a specific port cask finished whiskey that really embodies those flavors?
Sure.
You know, a must-try for a newbie like me?
Well, I'm seeing a note here
Okay.
that you enjoy Glenmorangie expressions.
Right.
Have you ever tried their Quinta Reuben?
Quinta Reuben. It rings a bell, but honestly, I probably walked right past it at the store
Oh, yeah.
because I didn't know what I was looking at.
It happens to the best of us.
Really?
Yeah. Quita is Glenmorangie's signature port cask finish.
Okay.
It spends around 10 years in ex-bourbon barrels
Okay.
and then gets a 2-year stint. In Ruby port casks from Portugal, it really delivers on that promise of dark fruit
Nice.
and has a lovely velvety texture.
Noted.
Hmm.
Adding it to my mental shopping list as we speak.
I like it.
Okay, so we've covered sherry and port,
Yeah.
which both come from the fortified wine family.
Right.
Does that mean all cask finishes lean towards the sweeter side of the spectrum?
It's a common misconception.
Really?
Yeah. While those richer, sweeter finishes are popular,
Right.
distillers use a huge range of casks
Okay.
to create all sorts of flavor profile.
Oh, that's right. I remember seeing mentions of wine casks and even rum casks
Yeah,
in the source material.
for sure.
Let's explore those a bit. Wine casks seem like they could go in so many directions.
They really can.
Are we talking big, bold reds,
Yeah.
crisp whites, or something else entirely?
You're right. The world of wine cask finishes is incredibly diverse. You'll find whiskeys finished in casks that previously held everything from Cabernet Sauvignon
Wow.
and Merlot to Chardonnay and even Sauternes.
Okay, so we'll break it down a bit. What kind of flavors might you expect from, say, a Cabernet Sauvignon cask finish?
Cabernet Sauvignon casks will often impart those lovely notes of blackcurrant and blackberry,
Okay.
along with a bit of spice,
Okay.
maybe a hint of cedar or tobacco.
Interesting.
They can also add a bit of tannin,
Okay.
which gives a drying sensation on the palate.
It sounds like those bolder red wine finishes add a layer of sophistication to the whiskey.
They do.
What about white wine casks,
Yeah.
like the Chardonnay you mentioned?
White wine cask finishes are becoming increasingly popular.
Wow.
They can impart these beautiful floral notes,
Okay.
along with hints of citrus pear and sometimes a touch of honey.
Wow.
It's a really lovely way to add a touch of elegance and complexity to the whiskey.
This is giving me a whole new appreciation for the artistry involved in cask finishing. It's like they're painting with flavors, using these casks as their brushes.
Exactly.
Okay, but now for the million-dollar question.
Okay.
Are there any specific white wine cask finishes you'd recommend?
Yeah.
You know, something truly unforgettable.
Well, if you're up for something really special,
Okay.
there's Glenfiddich's 21-year-old,
Right.
finished in ice wine casks.
Ice wine. Now that's a new one for me.
It's a good one.
I know ice wine is incredibly sweet,
Yes.
but how does that translate into a whiskey finish?
Imagine those concentrated flavors of apricot,
Okay.
mango, and lychee,
Wow.
all wrapped up in a silky smooth whiskey.
Okay.
It's a real treat.
Okay. Consider me intrigued.
Okay.
I'm adding that Glenfiddich 21 to my to-try list,
I like it.
which seems to be growing exponentially with every passing minute.
Oh,
All right, let's talk about those rum casks.
okay.
The mention of tropical flavors in the source material really piqued my interest.
As it should.
Is it really like a mini vacation in a glass?
It can be.
Really?
Yeah. Think about those classic rum profiles.
Okay.
Rich molasses,
Mm-hmm.
creamy vanilla, warm spices like nutmeg and clove.
Yeah.
All of those beautiful flavors can be imparted to whiskey through a rum cask finish.
Okay, now you're speaking my language. Are there any particular whiskeys that really showcase that rum cask magic?
For sure.
I need a go-to recommendation for my next cocktail party.
You're in luck. Your source material actually mentions a specific distillery
Okay.
known for its rum cask finishes, Balvenie.
Right.
Have you heard of their Caribbean cask expression?
Caribbean cask? It sounds vaguely familiar.
Okay.
Give me the lowdown. What am I in for?
It's Balvenie's signature rum cask finish. They take their classic 14-year-old whiskey
Okay.
and give it a finishing slumber in casks that once held Caribbean rum.
Wow.
You get all those classic tropical fruit notes, pineapple,
Okay.
mango,
Okay.
a touch of banana,
Yum.
along with that lovely vanilla and spice from the rum.
Wow.
It's incredibly well balanced
Okay.
and surprisingly approachable,
Right.
even if you're not a diehard rum fan.
Balvenie Caribbean cask. Got it.
I like it.
That sounds like the perfect bottle to impress my friends.
I think so too.
Now, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
Sherry, port
Yeah.
wine, rum.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything left in the cask finishing playbook?
There might be a couple more.
Or have we exhausted all the possibilities?
Not quite. There are always more hidden gems to uncover in the world of cask finishing.
Really?
Yeah. One more category that deserves a shout out
Okay.
is Madeira cask finishes.
Madeira. That's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that a fortified wine?
It is.
What does it bring to the party?
You're right. Madeira is a fortified wine.
Right.
And it has a remarkable ability to age gracefully.
But,
It lends a unique character to whiskey,
right.
often described as having nutty, caramelized notes,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes with hints of orange peel and dried fruits. It's a bit more of an acquired taste compared to some of the other finishes we've discussed, but it can be absolutely delicious if you enjoy those complex oxidative flavors.
Okay, oxidative. That's a new one for me.
That's a big one.
Paint me a picture here. What does an oxidative flavor profile actually taste like?
Imagine the richness of a well-aged sherry,
Okay.
but with a drier, almost savory edge.
Okay.
Think along the lines of walnuts, dates,
Okay.
and espresso,
Interesting.
sometimes with a hint of tobacco or leather.
Wow.
It's not for everyone,
Right.
but it can be incredibly rewarding if you enjoy those layered,
Okay.
nuanced flavors.
Okay, so Madeira cask finishes are for the more adventurous whiskey drinker.
They are.
The ones who like to dig a little deeper and uncover those hidden complexities. I can definitely appreciate that.
Yeah.
Now, I have to ask,
Sure.
is Glenmorangie experimenting with this type of finish too?
I think they might be.
They seem to be the champions of cask finishing variety.
They're definitely not afraid to push boundaries.
Right.
While they're not as widely known for their Madeira cask finishes as they are for, say, their Quinta Ruban,
Yeah.
they have released some limited edition expressions finished in Madeira casks that have received rave reviews.
There's that limited edition phrase again. I'm sensing a theme here. Cask finishing allows distilleries to get really creative.
They do.
And offer these unique expressions that you might not find on every shelf.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a treasure hunt for whiskey lovers.
Exactly. And that's part of the beauty of cask finishing. It allows for so much experimentation and personalization. Distillers are constantly pushing the boundaries, trying new cask types, experimenting with different finishing times, all in pursuit of creating something truly special.
It's like they're conducting flavor experiments in those warehouses.
I like it.
So after exploring all these fascinating facets of cask finishing, from sherry and port to wine, rum, and even Madeira, what does this all mean for someone like me who's still relatively new to the world of whiskey? I feel like I've gone from like whiskey novice to, well, maybe not an expert, but at least I'm speaking the language now. But seriously, after all this talk of casks and finishes, what's the key takeaway for someone like browsing the whiskey aisle? What am I looking for on a label now?
You've hit the nail on the head with looking beyond the label. But it's not just about the words anymore. Remember how we talked about cask finishing being like a whiskey's finishing school? Think of it this way. You wouldn't just look at what university someone went to. You'd want to know their major right.
Okay, I'm with you. It's about the specifics of that experience, not just the broad strokes.
Exactly. That age statement. That's just the starting point. Cask finishing tells you where that whiskey got its flavor degree. Did it spend time in the school of rich sherry? Or maybe the Department of Bright Fruitiness with a port cask.
So instead of just seeing 12 years old, I should be looking for mentions of specific cask finishes, like finished in Oloroso sherry casks or finished in port casks. That gives me so much more information to work with.
Precisely. It's like those little hints on a wine list that tell you if something is oaky or crisp. Now you're using those same tasting terms to decode the world of whiskey.
This is a game changer.
It is.
It's like having a secret decoder ring for whiskey labels. No more feeling lost in the liquor store.
And the best part is, this knowledge empowers you to try things you might have otherwise overlooked. Maybe you thought you didn't like heavily sherried whiskeys, but a light touch of a PX finish could be right up your alley.
Or maybe I thought all rum casks meant super sweet. But then I discover a beautifully balanced expression like that Balvenie Caribbean cask we talked about.
Exactly.
It's about expanding my horizons.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to let your curiosity guide you. Talk to the people at your local whiskey shop. Ask for recommendations. And most importantly, be open to trying something new.
It's about embracing the adventure. This has been an incredible deep dive.
It has.
I feel like I've learned so much.
Yeah.
And more importantly, I'm excited to keep exploring the world of cask-finished whiskey.
As you should be.
Any final words of wisdom for the road?
Just remember, at the end of the day, the best whiskey is the one you enjoy the most.
That's true.
Trust your palate.
Okay.
Explore different flavors. And savor the experience.
Beautifully said. Cheers to that. And a huge thank you to our expert for guiding us through this fascinating journey. I don't know about you, but I'm suddenly feeling very thirsty.
Me too.